Here's a rundown of the key points from Quiz 1. So, the first question, the main idea here is that the Greek Dark Age refers to the fact that it's dark to us. The collapse of the Bronze Age means that the people of the Aegean lose their writing system, and so we are unable to hear them for the entire period of 4 to 5 centuries after the collapse of the Bronze Age, when they have no writing system, no documents, no records, no written literature to pass on to us for us to to read and to get direct testimony from. It's not just about the literature. The archaeology is also thin because archaeology is easier when there are cities that you know where they're located and there's a high concentration of material to find. When the Bronze Age collapses, people flee the cities and go out into the countryside. But, as many of you pointed out, it's not an indicative name because during this period, during the early Iron Age, the people of the Aegean rebuild an entirely new economy and culture that starts out based in the countryside, based around thriving farming communities, where individuals have a shoulder-to-shoulder relationship where everybody that has some land is participating in and has voice and agency. This is the origin of the Greek idea of freedom. This is the origin of all the Greek culture that is to come, that is driven by a repudiation of the selfishness of the past and a building of a new economy based on the idea that instead of doing everything for a palace city and a great Wanax at the top, everybody's doing things for the community. The foundation is being laid for Greek culture to come. Question 2, Iliad and Odyssey. So the point of this question is that it talks about events of the Bronze Age. Around 1200 BCE, when the Bronze Age is at its climax and we're experiencing the Trojan War. It's talking about these events that are, for Homer, in the 8th century BCE, at the other end of the Dark Age, the distant past. And so what makes Homer's works important for understanding early Iron Age history? That's the thrust of this question, because it's important for understanding early Iron Age, for understanding Homer's time. And that's because of the way these stories are transmitted. As the stories are transmitted orally across the 450, 500 years of the Greek Dark Age, these stories are passed down by these performers, by these bards, these rhapsodes. They're passed down generation to generation. The stories are retold in each generation in a way that the listeners can understand. And so the context and the furniture of the story changes and shifts. And by the time the story gets to the days of Homer, around 750 BCE, stories are being told in terms of the values and expectations of its audience, even though they're talking about events of the distant past. And so the Iliad and the Odyssey are very important as a resource for hearing and understanding the values of Homer's time, and in particular the things that are most emphasized: the importance of marriage, the importance of guest friendship or xenia, the importance of honor that's achieved through positive action for the community. That's time, and perhaps most importantly, arete, the idea of excelling beyond that which you are as a person and as a community. This is what Greek culture is all about during this period. And so the Iliad and the Odyssey are telling us about what is important for the period at the end of the Dark Age, on the cusp of the Greek culture that is to come. And it's also reflecting the ways in which the Greeks of the Iron Age have turned their backs on the Bronze Age, have repudiated the Bronze Age. And the chief demonstration of this is that, as I alluded to in our class discussion, the Greeks in the Iliad especially are the bad guys. Agamemnon and Achilles and Odysseus and Ajax and all of the chief Greek figures are performing deeds that are destructive to the collective Greek effort, destructive to the community, and they end up being punished. Agamemnon acts in a way that is greedy for power and ambition. And Achilles' pride prevents him from acting to save his protege, Patroclus. And Odysseus's hubris leads him into this incredible nightmare journey. That's because he offends the gods through his arrogance, through his belief in his own great wisdom. The Greeks are demonstrating all the things that was wrong with Mycenaean Greek society in the Iliad, and why it is that society collapsed and failed. And the heroes are people like Hector, who is honorable and noble, and Penelope, who is holding Ithaca together while all the Greeks are off fighting this protracted war. In the excerpt for the readers, so we have four excerpts from Homer here, and we discussed these in the class discussion. And I'm not gonna dwell on these too much because I want this to be a short video. But Agamemnon's insult, as I told you, Agamemnon's insult is showing us his mistreatment of Briseis. And Achilles, for that matter, is all rooted in their own self-focus, in their own drive to accomplish what they want for themselves, in opposition to each other. And so, Briseis is left, being, victimized for this. So this is not, a demonstration of how women are supposed to be treated. Quite the opposite. This is a story talking about how this good woman is being bandied about and treated as property and prize because Agamemnon is a bad king and Achilles is too stuck in his own head to be thinking about the rest of the Greeks or what's right and wrong, how women should properly be treated. In contrast to this, we have Nausicaa and the Stranger, which is a very nice little story that's showing us men and women that are not the same, that are not equal, but that are that each have their own kind of power and authority, that are unlike each other and are complementary and balanced. And so Nausicaa has this innate wisdom and self-possession that keeps her being a valuable princess to her community and a strong leader. And Odysseus comes through representing strength and beauty. It's striking how often in these stories we end up talking about the beauty of the men and the wisdom and inner strength of the women. This is an interesting contrast, and we'll talk more about this in terms of as we talk more about gender in the Greek world. And this is reinforced by the fact that Nausicaa talks about her parents, the queen and king, and emphasizes, if you want anything done, you want to talk to the queen. Don't talk to my dad. Odysseus and the Suitors, the key point here is, so Odysseus comes home and sees Penelope has been holding out for him, has been through this scheme that she has of unwinding her loom every night, has been stringing along these suitors in waiting for Odysseus to come home, waiting for the proper prince of Ithaca, the person who's worthy of being its leader. And the suitors are shown as being unworthy through their selfishness, their mooching, they're eating out the entire larder. They just want to get with Penelope for the power and, the sex because she's a beautiful woman. And so Penelope is once again showing wisdom and cunning, and Odysseus is showing the ruthlessness of the gods in punishing the suitors for betraying guest friendship, for betraying hospitality and for seeking to take this position over Ithaca that they want only for themselves. And finally, the death of Patroclus. Death of Patroclus is showing us this moment where Achilles' pride is placing him in a position where he's sulking in his tents, and Patroclus puts on his armor, runs out into battle, and is killed in Achilles' place. Because Achilles is not thinking about the Greeks, he's not thinking about the greater good, he's not thinking about the community, he is thinking about himself and his own injured pride. And the result of it is, as is almost always the case in Greek mythology and Greek literature, ancient Greek literature, the punishment is not visited simply upon the individual. The punishment is visited upon family and village and community as a means of reinforcing the fact that everybody is responsible for making sure that people aren't selfish and sinful. And so the death of Patroclus is Patroclus dies, and the punishment is to Patroclus and also to Achilles, because Achilles loses his protege. The Greeks think of passing on their knowledge and wisdom to the next generation through intimate personal bonds of someone younger than them. And so Patroclus is this to Achilles. Patroclus' death means that all that Achilles is and all that he has accomplished is not going to live on. This is the Greeks' idea of immortality, contributing to the culture, building forward into the future. This is what mortals do, and Achilles. This is the tragedy for Achilles, that his legacy is taken away from him through the death of Patroclus. So the multiple choice. All the following were found at Lefkandi. Lefkandi is a early Iron Age dig site. One of the larger communities that was excavated, and all these things were found there. The ivory-handled dagger, the larger house. The thing about the chieftain's house is that it wasn't actually that much larger. It was like all the other houses in the village, except that it had a veranda in front where people could gather, and the community leaders would come together, and the chieftain would help make decisions. The idea here being that the chieftain in Dark Age Greece was not a ruler as the Wanaks had been during the Bronze Age. The Greeks had now embraced the idea that to be free for all these people that were part of the community, they were all in this together. All of them were free. To be Greek was to be free, and they're coming to the idea that this means that it's a contradiction in terms for a free person to have a ruler, to have a king or an emperor. And so by the end of the Dark Age, the kings have gone by the wayside. And, to be a Greek community means that you have the community governing itself in one way or another. And we'll talk more about that next week. So the only thing that wasn't found was a dragon bones. The last question, how would you describe the religion of the Greeks that emerges during this period? There are a lot of things that we can talk about here. What's most striking is that the religion of the Greeks is, as many of you pointed out, polytheistic. There are many gods, but this is absolutely normal for the ancient world. Almost every community in this period, in the early Iron Age, almost every community in the early Iron Age is a pagan community. Consists of polytheistic gods that represent local natural forces. That's the definition of pagan. And so these gods are local. They're situated in the places where these people live. And so pagan gods exist for individual communities. You leave the area of one community, you leave the domain of that god. If you're in Egypt, you are subject to the gods of that place, Ra and Horus and Isis and Osiris. And if you leave Egypt, you leave that place and those gods behind, and you travel through Canaan, and you're subject to the gods that you're in the areas that you're passing through, like Baal and so forth. You get to Babylon, and you're subjected to the gods of that place. In Babylon, in particular, the chief god of the city of Babylon is Marduk, the patron god, and so. The Greeks have a pagan theology, which is a polytheistic religion based on local natural forces. What's distinctive about the Greeks, what's unique to them, unlike anywhere else in the ancient world, is that there is no priestly class. There's no set of men or women whose job it is to define who the gods are and what they're telling us and what they think. There's no people whose power and authority is vested in a special relationship with the gods. And side by side with this, Greek religion is placed in the literature of the people. It's placed in the epic poetry of the rhapsodes, and how this is written down in Homer and other works of literary art. And so because this is art, because this is creative expression, the gods and the religion of the Greek belongs to the people. And the people shape and craft it with their ideas and their needs in a way that just doesn't happen anywhere else. And perhaps directly as a result of this, the Greek gods, more than any other, are focused on human affairs. And from the Iliad and the Odyssey and all Greek mythology onward from this, the tendency of the gods is to react to mortals who are placing themselves ahead of the community and punish them. People are punished by the gods for thinking of themselves, for being selfish, for not thinking of the community, for being arrogant, prideful, ambitious, and so forth. And this punishment, as I mentioned, goes not just to the individual, but to the community. So the Greek gods, unlike the gods of Mesopotamia, even the gods of Egypt, the Greek gods are not bound up in their own world and their own needs. The Greek gods are intensely focused on human needs and actions and respond to human morality, and often the stories about them are often about the ways that the ways that morality works. And the Greek gods often act in contrast to this. And we'll see more of this as we go on. But so there are lots of things that are remarkable about the Greek religion, but this is the most striking. That the Greek religion that emerges here is about the human community and is owned by, is controlled by, and grows with the human community as well. And that's the end of the quiz. Email me with any questions.